You ever go to get your driver's license renewed and there's a long line of people ahead of you and it's a long wait and it becomes just a frustrating experience? Well, yeah, that's pretty common. And mindfulness can be helpful with that, changing that experience from one of frustration to one of interest. But also, imagine what it's like for the people who are working there. Underpaid, overworked, under-resourced. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hello and welcome to Mindfulness Voyage. My name is Ted Meissner. I'm a mindfulness teacher, and we're joined today by a rather loud Canada goose in the background who wanted to be part of this episode. And thank you so much for being here and for willing to learn and explore a little bit about how mindfulness might be an influence in your life. One of the things I am constantly amazed by is how mindfulness shows up in so many ways, in so many different contexts. And today, one of the things that we're going to do is explore how mindfulness showed up in an award-winning paper that is about public service employees and how they handle the stresses of their work. It was not intended to be a paper about mindfulness. Mindfulness just showed up. And this is internationally. This work was done in South Africa. So I hope you enjoy our conversation with our guest today. Our guest today is Zikhona Dlaza. Zikhona, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I am very eager for our conversation.
Thank you so much, Ted. I really appreciate to be sharing this platform with you.
Very glad to have you here as a guest and to learn from you from the work that you're doing. One of the things I would like to start with is maybe if you could just give a shout out to your co-author on this paper.
Yes, the co-author, I co-authored with Prof. Willie Chinyamurindi from the University of Fort Hare. We worked very well with him. We started working together when I was an intern. He was my mentor. So he's the one person who beautifully mentored me into this journey of being an academic. And I want to say thank you so much, and I appreciate him a lot. I wouldn't be here if he didn't see a potential in me and he didn't believe in me. So I am here today because he saw that there is a great potential that and needs to be nurtured and be given growth and all of that. So I just want to say thank you to him for this beautiful journey.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things we're going to be talking about is the human heartfulness of this work. So for people who are listening, who've tuned into this or watching this episode, this is award-winning research. This paper that we're going to be talking about was presented at the South African Association for Public Administration and Management, their annual conference last year, and won the Best Paper Award for Good Governance and Ethics. And it earned it. Zikhona, you did a great job putting this together. So congratulations on that. What a wonderful start to an early part of your career.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let's talk a little bit about this. And for folks who are watching, of course, I'll have a link that you can share this and see this further to really dive into what we're talking about. Okay. But I'd like to ask, what was it that interested you about this particular topic? Because it's around mindfulness and helping public service employees. What kinds of things brought you to write this particular paper?
Okay, when I started as an intern, I worked in public services, where I observed that, in fact, not just to observe, but I was part of the experience. I experienced the challenges that were happening in the public services, and also how stressful the situation might be to the extent that it's even hard to perform at work because of the personal challenges that you encounter, and you are expected that you need to show up at work, you need to serve people regardless of what you're going through as a person. So my undergrad and until masters, I did psychology. So I wanted to use my background, my qualifications, to explore what can be done for what can be done in public spaces, and in order to make employees feel good, to be good at what they are doing without being affected by the personal challenges that they are encountering in their everyday lives. So by being a part of the public services, I experienced those challenges. I felt I lived in them. So I knew what it feels like to be under stress, to be in a condition where the work conditions are not favorable enough for you to work, and all the surrounding the public services. So that's where my interest came from. And I just imagine what can be done, to overcome or to cope better in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you've had your own personal experience with this, so it's something that was close to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the study. This is a little different than some other researchers I've had here where they do a pre and post evaluation of a mindfulness intervention.
Yeah.
That's not what you did here. This is a little different. So maybe talk about just the structure of this research.
Okay. The structure of this research constituted first of all the working individuals who had gone through the mental employee well-being programs, and we wanted to see how effectively did those employee wellness programs impacted their lives. So this is, I don't know whether this is the structure that you want me to talk about, or the steps that were involved when we were doing this research, but basically we wanted to focus on people who have went through the employee wellness programs and how they impacted them and help them to deal with their challenges.
Yeah. So you interviewed 15 people. You used a
Yes.
snowball process of one person suggesting the next.
Yes.
And it's so fascinating because these were open-ended conversations about what was your experience. So what kinds of things showed up in those conversations? What did people share with you?
Um, what showed up, first of all, is that people were not comfortable. They felt like to share their experiences. They felt like we are imposing on their personal lives, and the comfortability around sharing their personal lives was really on the fact that, okay, this is a public service. If I express this dissatisfaction or the feeling of disappointment or anything, something might happen to me. So I observed that some of them didn't understand the context, that this is for research purposes. They felt like, oh, these people are just here to spy on us and report back to our bosses and all that. So, but as the time goes by, we had to sat down and made our participants feel very comfortable, and made them to feel comfortable and be able to express themselves freely. Then we saw change where they began to open up and just be free to talk about whatever they went through.
Yeah. And this is the interesting part, because what that says to me is one of the hurdles you ran into immediately was no sense of psychological safety, no sense that
No.
people could share vulnerable
Mm,
situations
mm, mm.
and it'll be okay. So how did you put
Of which
people at ease with this?
this made me, this made me to think that is why employee wellness programs are not utilized, because people don't feel safe. They don't want to be vulnerable at the workplace, at the workspace, so they don't feel comfortable. So it made me to say that, you know what, there's some level of awareness that is needed about mental health programs in the workplace, that we need to ensure we need to make sure that people are comfortable and they know what is the purpose of these programs, because some of them, they are there, but they don't know what are they for, how are they going to have us, and instead they'll feel like, no, you're just here to spy on us. We are not comfortable to share our personal lives. So it feels like, for me, this, even though the organizations have employee wellness programs, but the awareness and how they can help employees, it's not clearly communicated.
You used a phrase in the very beginning of the paper, conscientious awareness, that there was this respect for their experience as human beings. And there is more, as I mentioned, a bit more heartfulness with this than I typically see in research, where there's an intention to be distant and maybe antiseptic to people's
Yeah.
experience. And
Yes.
that's the opposite direction that occurred here because of what people were sharing. What was it like for you? Was it moving to you as someone who has been a public service employee, hearing from others that they were also struggling in ways that you may have encountered yourself?
To hear that there are other public service employees that are struggling, that are going through challenges, it was, for me, it was a moment of relief to understand that, some of the things that we are going through, you are not alone. There's someone somewhere there who's experiencing the same thing that we are experiencing. And eventually there is a way of coming out of that situation. So to me, their experiences made me to reflect and see that, you know what, you are not alone in this. There are also other people who are going through the same thing, but eventually, at some point, they come out. They make their way out of that situation.
Yeah. So let's move into what you found in these interviews, these narratives. Some consistent themes came up. There were common things that occurred. What were some of those that stood out to you as interesting?
Okay, the ones that stood out for me was on the career challenges and also how they have dealt with those challenges. One of the common themes that have emerged was that they were the self-awareness. They were able to recognize what they are going through. They were able to feel the pain and be befriending themselves, be available. They were available. They allowed themselves to experience whatever that was associated with the challenges that they were experiencing at that time. So those are the things that came out common to all of them, that they were present in their challenges, and they allowed themselves to feel the pain so that they can be able to come up with solutions, not necessarily solutions, but to come up with ways that they can be able to manage and cope with whatever that they were going through.
Yeah. And that's what I found very interesting
And
about this, is that those solutions were not just about fixing the problem. It was about
the
how might you deal
problem,
with whatever it
yes,
is
yes.
that comes up. Yeah.
They thrived in the midst of the problems. The
Right.
problems didn't just go away, but they survived in the midst of those problems.
Now I noticed in the paper you have a chart that lists the different kinds of things that people did, and mindfulness was in there. It was the most used one. What I'm
Mhm.
wondering is, when you first started this, was there an intention that, we're going to look for people who have mindfulness stuff, or did that just come up as part of it, that they shared, I did this and that and the other thing?
No, we didn't look for people who have mindfulness stuff. We just looked at the people who went through employee wellness programs.
Mhm.
And then their mindfulness came up.
That's interesting because it says that there seems to be more of these occurring and that they are
Yes.
having an impact on people's work life.
Yes, definitely.
So, with what came up and what people shared, was any of that surprising to you as you were having these conversations and they were talking about various things in their work experience and how they were dealing with them?
Yes, there was. We have one participant who shared how prayer helped, how consulting with the pastor and having those pastoral counseling sessions helped. For me, it came as a surprise because, in the workplace, people don't want to associate work with any kind of religion or belief.
Mhm.
So for me, that stood out. That what, even in the workplace, people have, what can I say? People have they have coping mechanism, if I can call it like that,
Mhm.
and um, they have means other than the ones that we thought we would find in the workplace, the means to cope with challenges in the workplace. So for me, prayer and believing in God and how they expressed it, how prayer helped them, how having hope helped them, really stood out for me because in this context we just focusing on performance and work. To work every day. No one shares about their religion or beliefs or anything like that. So to me, that really stood out for me.
Yeah. And this is, again, a fascinating area that it can be a wide variety of what people's beliefs are. And that's
Yes,
okay. It's
yes,
what is most moving and meaningful to them in their life.
yes. And it just showed that mindfulness, when we're talking about mindfulness, we are not talking about one practice of mindfulness, which is very common, meditation.
Mhm.
You know, there are other practices that people find solace in them.
Yeah. So, looking at this work, what does it make you think of about interesting areas for further research or areas that are needs currently with public service employees? What are some changes that might be encouraged from this work?
No, from this work, I would still emphasize the mindfulness, incorporation of mindfulness on employee wellness programs, and also I'll still advocate for more research on that,
Mhm.
and I'll also advocate for conducive work conditions for my PhD right now. I'm focusing on decent work and professional development. I'm very enthusiastic about the employee wellness and well-being. So for future research with regards to mindfulness, I would also like to emphasize the importance of conducive work environment, decent work, how decent work links to mental health and challenges in the workplace. Because when we look at these challenges, we find most of the time they revolve around unfavorable working conditions.
Yeah.
And we need to look at how these conditions affect employee wellness, employee well-being. I mean, so further research, I'll still advocate for the incorporation of mindfulness in the place, the awareness of it. It is very important. I found that people, by being self-assertive, self-conscious, people are able to cope with whatever that comes in their way because they are fully present in their lives. They are fully present in their challenges and circumstances around them, which gives them um, more chance or more ability to be able to navigate and cope and find solutions. So I would still, for future research, I feel like there is little. Even that's a huge claim, I know, but I'll still emphasize the mindfulness in the workplace, that it should be incorporated. It should be something that we not feel ashamed. We do not feel ashamed of it. We should promote it. There are many practices of mindfulness other than meditation that can be useful.
Excellent. Well, if you were speaking with a public service employee right now who is having some difficulties, what's something you might suggest to them as something to explore and how to deal with what they're running into?
Okay, what can I suggest is that do not run away from whatever you are experiencing. Just befriend yourself, allow yourself to feel whatever emotion is associated with the challenges that you are facing. By being aware and be present in that current situation, you are able to reflect and think and find ways, to live with the situation. Sometimes we need to understand some of the things will not change. Some of the challenges will not just go away, but just need to be mindful, to learn and live with them, but not to be comfortable to them, but find ways that we can be well while they are within us, and eventually a way out will just show itself. And another thing that I can say is that it is okay not to know what will happen tomorrow. It is okay not to know what will happen in the future. Just live in the present and in the present, and embrace what is happening right now.
Wonderful, wonderful advice. Thank you. Our guest
Not
today.
not that I promote people to have challenges. No, 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 no. They are not nice. I don't promote it. It's not nice, but just try to seek good in whatever that is happening and live in the moment.
Turning towards those challenges and working with them can make a difference.
Yes.
And you can do
Yes,
that,
yes,
and you need to
definitely.
take care of yourself while doing it.
Yes, definitely.
Well, for those who are watching or listening to this, thank you for being here. I'll have some links for you in the spot where links are found. Our guest today is Zikhona Dlaza. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your work.
Thank you so much, Ted. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining. I hope you got something out of today's episode, and if it is something that you'd value and share with others, please do, whether that's subscribing or just letting others know about this podcast. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time.